On this Friday night, Canada's growing workforce. What's fueling a surprising boost in job numbers?
This was completely unprecedented.
The good news for young workers and which sectors are still struggling. Raging wildfires in British Columbia.
It's such a terrible effect of global warming.
The community's under threat as thousands gather for a nearby music festival. The World Cup enters its home stretch. The teams fighting to advance to the final stages as the stars steal the spotlight. Plus, strutting their stuff at the Stampede. The political fashion faux pas at Canada's largest rodeo.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with some much needed good news for Canadian workers. The country added 18,000 jobs in June, beating expectations and building on a strong month of hiring in May. The unemployment rate dipped by 1/10 of a point to 6.5%. The biggest winners were young workers, though their unemployment rate remains high. Our senior business editor, Jacqueline Hansen, breaks down the numbers.
Around the corner from BC Place, this restaurant saw the World Cup coming.
We knew that we were going to have to double our staff.
So it did, growing from 50 employees to 100.
We've never done it before. This was completely unprecedented.
In June, businesses in food services and accommodations hired 15,000 people across Canada. And while the World Cup was the reason here, there's likely more to it.
I would point to the resilience in consumer spending that we've seen to start this year that appears to be trickling into, some of those accommodation and food sectors where consumer spending is a driving force.
It was likely also a driving force for hiring in sectors such as retail, recreation, and culture. And young workers, in particular, benefited. Summer hiring ramped up in June. Youth gained 33,000 jobs. And their unemployment rate improved, falling from 17.4% to 15.3%. But better still isn't great.
Still challenging. The unemployment rate is still higher than the historical average. It's vitally important that we deal with this. They are the future labor force.
Canada's future labor force strength also relies on trade.
Manufacturing continues to be hit hard by tariffs and trade uncertainty with the U.S. The sector lost an additional 17,000 jobs in June. Since President Trump took office and targeted trade, manufacturing jobs in Canada have now fallen by more than 60,000.
We are seeing a Canadian economy that is being weakened by events on the international stage. That has held back hiring.
At this restaurant, the World Cup is a welcome distraction and a big boost for business.
This has been the busiest that we've ever been.
A record week for sales thanks to a full team and a full house. Jacqueline Hansen, Global News, Toronto.
Turning to breaking news now, the federal government has just confirmed that the Gordie Howe International Bridge connecting Windsor, Ontario with Detroit will finally open on July 27th. Canada financed the construction of that bridge, costing more than $6 billion, and it was originally scheduled to open last month, but President Trump blocked that, demanding more U.S. ownership. A source with knowledge of the negotiations told Global News that the issues that had prevented the opening of the bridge have now been resolved, but it's unclear tonight what, if any, concessions Canada made, including on how toll revenue might be shared. Windsor-Detroit is Canada's busiest trade corridor with the U.S. Wildfires are burning out of control in BC's interior. The Brunswick Creek wildfire complex has already prompted evacuation orders for hundreds of properties, with hundreds more now under evacuation alert, warned to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. And the evacuation alert zone is less than 20 kilometers from a music festival site near the community of Merrit, where thousands of people are now arriving for the weekend. Sarah Macdonald reports.
Buckets upon buckets of water, doing little to deter the growth of a pair of fast-moving wildfires stretching across some 20,000 hectares of BC's southern interior. The Brunswick Creek wildfire complex burning on both sides of the Fraser River north of Hope near the village of Boston Bar, forcing the closure of a portion of Highway 1.
They had sprinklers all the way around there and didn't matter.
Devouring structures in surrounding areas, along with months of peak season revenue for Shane Finley. Now sifting through what's left of his livelihood, the Blue Lake Resort.
You can't have people in here to start cleaning up until the trees are gone. and then you can clean up the hazardous material, and then.
And then we have those sustained winds and those high and steep slope and alpine areas. It really is sort of the perfect combination to increase fire behavior.
Fueled by strong winds and hot, dry conditions, the flames and the smoke are uncomfortably close to the Nicola Valley, where the stage is set for thousands of festival goers descending on near desert-like conditions for a 4-day music festival in the city of Merrit.
It's such a terrible effect of global warming, and it really adds another element to festival planning.
Organizers insist the show will go on and it will be safe, with a close eye being kept on expanding evacuation alerts and air quality, with a comprehensive fire plan in place.
If there were ever a turn of events where the situation changed, we would have a lot of events warning.
Cooler weather in the forecast Friday night could offer slight relief to a region that is already sweltering before temperatures climb again early next week. Sarah Macdonald, Global News, Vancouver.
And turning to another fast-moving wildfire in southern Spain, which Spanish officials are calling one of the deadliest on record. At least 12 people have been killed, many of them foreigners, after the fire devastated a remote community. Around 24 others are reported missing, and hundreds have been forced to flee. As Vincent McAvinny reports, a dangerous heat wave is fueling the flames.
The deadly fire broke out overnight Thursday in the southeastern Almeria region, near the village of Los Gallardos. Investigators believe a downed power line sparked the blaze, and strong winds then drove it rapidly through vegetation, left bone dry by successive heat waves. Hundreds of firefighters, military and law enforcement personnel responded. In the smoke-filled skies, helicopters and planes were also used to try to douse the flames. The fire started and has spread very quickly. We've had to evacuate residents. It is going to reach the campsite, where we also have 400 to 500 people. We are very concerned because houses are burning. Hundreds of residents were evacuated to local sports halls. It rips your soul out. This is what you're left with. Yes, I worked there. That is my son. I raised him there, where the fire is. I had 600 orange trees. This region is popular with tourists, and authorities believe most of those killed were foreigners. It's understood 4 of the victims are British nationals who were trapped in a car as they attempted to escape the blaze. Other victims had been trying to flee on foot. They are in a difficult condition, and many of them are charred and unrecognizable. We are working around the clock, and DNA tests will also be carried out on each of them to ensure they are correctly identified. It's only the start of the summer, but Spain has already seen multiple wildfires. Unusually heavy winter rainfall encouraged dense scrubland growth, and with temperatures now reaching 40 degrees Celsius, that vegetation has become perfect kindling. Vincent McAvinny, Global News, London.
Well, the ceasefire deal between the U.S. and Iran is now officially dead. The two sides have been trading strikes this week, and today the U.S. president was unequivocal. In a social media post, Donald Trump says the two countries are still talking, but that the U.S. has told Iran, quote, in no uncertain terms, that the ceasefire is over. Also tonight, news that Iran reportedly devised a new plan to assassinate President Trump. Mike Armstrong has the details.
Following funeral processions in 2 other cities, Iran buried the late supreme leader in the town where he was born. Ali Khamenei was killed in a U.S. strike in the first hours of the war. There were calls in the crowd for retribution, specifically against the U.S. president.
Now we have come with all these people for revenge. Revenge for the blood of our leader.
Threats from Iran against Donald Trump aren't new. For years, Iranian officials have promised retaliation for the 2020 drone strike that killed a top Iranian general. But according to the Wall Street Journal, there is a new plot this week. The report says Israel recently shared intelligence with the U.S. that Iran had hatched a new assassination plan. What it was hasn't been made public, but it appears to have been on the president's mind. Repeatedly this week, Trump brought up being in Iran's crosshairs.
I'm their #1 target. I've been #1 on their list for years. I'm #1 on their list before you. But if I go, you go.
Now, the potential plot appears to have led to a plane change for the president. The trip to the NATO summit in Turkey was on the new controversial plane gifted by Qatar. To leave, Trump took the old Air Force One. The White House says because of the threats, it was using distraction and misdirection. But there are reports the new aircraft doesn't have the same defensive countermeasures to protect it from attack.
This is an aircraft that was spec'd out and prioritized for luxury, not safety.
Trump actually changed back to the new plane for the last leg home. Once back in the U.S., he told the New York Post he's left instructions should Iran ever be successful. If anything happens to him, he says, he should be bombed at, quote, levels that they've never seen before. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Celebrations in China after its space agency successfully recovered a reusable rocket for the first time. This video from Chinese state media shows the bottom of the rocket returning to a floating platform after it separates. The successful test moves China closer to matching technology from American firms. Some terrifying moments on board a flight from Greece to Germany. A passenger was nearly sucked out of a detached window. Passengers reported hearing a loud bang as the window smashed and a 61-year-old man's head and shoulders were pulled outside the plane. Other passengers then pulled him back in. He suffered neck and shoulder injuries. That flight, operated by Ryanair subsidiary Malta Air, landed safely. It's unclear what caused the window to break, though reports say a piece of the engine broke off and smashed into it. And in this country, the Transportation Safety Board is investigating why an Air Canada plane veered off the runway at Montreal's Trudeau International Airport yesterday. Video shows the moment passengers exited the plane. The flight from Los Angeles landed but then left the runway. None of the passengers and crew were injured. The north runway was briefly closed. That aircraft will now undergo a full inspection. A British man who killed an Ontario restaurant owner has been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Robert Evans Jr. pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the death of Sharif Rahman. Evans was a customer at Rahman's restaurant in Owen Sound in southwestern Ontario 3 years ago, and he left without paying his bill. Rahman confronted him and was then punched in the face, fell, and later died. Evans' father and uncle also pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact for helping Evans to flee the country. They were sentenced to 21 months. The World Cup climax. Coming up, the last team standing and the soccer stars making waves as the tournament enters its final stretch. Ottawa's Gabriela Dabrowski and her doubles partner, Luisa Stefani from Brazil, have now advanced to the finals at Wimbledon. They won in straight sets today over a team from Japan and Taiwan. Stefani and Dabrowski are ranked second and will now face the 10th ranked team in the finals. Dabrowski's hoping third time's a charm. She finished second at Wimbledon, both in 2019 and again in 2024. And another team has just punched its ticket to the semifinals of the world's biggest sports tournament. Spain defeated Belgium 2-1 this afternoon and will now play France in the semis. All four of the favorites are still alive, with England and Argentina playing their respective quarterfinal matches tomorrow. As Eric Sorensen reports, the final few rounds of the World Cup will have no shortage of star power.
You never want to be overconfident. But the team they call Les Bleus are giving the French reason to believe.
The final in New York City, July 19th. We will be there, France will be there.
Another impressive performance over highly regarded Morocco, which beat Canada to get this far. We're there to win the final, he says. They're led by Kylian Mbappe, who scored another scintillating goal. A World Cup in which the biggest stars have not only sparkled, but led their teams deep into the tournament. In the race for the World Cup's Golden Boot, Mbappe's 8 goals ties him for the lead with Lionel Messi of Argentina. Just behind are Norway's Erling Haaland and England's Harry Kane. There's never been a race like it. 4 players with 6 or more goals in a single World Cup. The field will narrow when England plays Norway Saturday. Haaland has become a modern Norwegian legend, from leading his upstart team on the pitch.
To be able to be here and play on the biggest stage with my Norwegian friends against the best teams in the world is really special.
Come on! To winning fans everywhere he goes. To 60 million following him on Instagram. The joy of Norwegians has been contagious.
We are the Vikings from the north.
We've never experienced anything like this before.
This was how they stormed the Royal Palace last match. If you're wondering about palace security, this apparently is what Norwegian security looks like.
Our mission is secure the Royal Palace. There's a lot of people gathering here, singing, drinking, and having fun.
Win or lose, Norwegian authorities seem reasonably confident the World Cup will not get out of hand in this country. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Conservative infighting still ahead, the public bickering and the growing calls for party unity. Prominent Canadian Conservatives are calling for unity. Party infighting has spilled into the open, including comments from the Conservative leader. As Jillian Piper reports, Pierre Poilievre is again facing pressure from within his own party to change tack.
What was supposed to be a lighthearted moment at the Calgary Stampede has kicked off a wave of Conservative infighting.
Carrie Lynn Finley! Way to go! Fresh off a big win against Liberal lobbyists from out east.
That comment widely seen as a dig at one of Conservative Ontario Premier Doug Ford's top advisors, Corey Teneycke, who criticized Pierre Poilievre's campaign in the last federal election.
Politics is about addition, not subtraction.
Former BC Conservative leadership candidate Caroline Elliott defending her campaign manager Teneycke, clapping back at Poilievre.
So your MPs, and now you personally, celebrating my defeat in the BC Conservative leadership race is disappointing. The race is over, and it's time to unite, not divide.
That division, an unforced error by Poilievre, according to this Conservative analyst.
It's tough for him right now. A lot of it, I would suggest, is his own making. Being spiteful is not a formula for winning.
And more infighting within the caucus. Tory MPs Leslyn Lewis and Michelle Rempel-Garner publicly disagreeing over a new Alberta AI data centre.
Ultimately, the message that I believe that sends to Canadians is not ready to govern.
Since Poilievre lost his own seat in the last federal election, 4 Conservative MPs have all crossed the floor to the Liberals. And this week saw another blow, with Prime Minister Mark Carney appointing Quebec Conservative MP Richard Martel to the Senate.
He's struggling. The question is, will he make it to Christmas? And right now that would seem to be a bit more precarious.
3 former communications directors to Poilievre have all publicly urged him to change his approach this week, but there's no word on if he will actually take that advice. His office did not respond to our request for comment by deadline. Jeff?
Jillian Piper in Ottawa. Thanks, Jillian. Stampede style. Up next, how politicians are putting their best boot forward at Canada's biggest rodeo. An unexpected fireworks show lit up the sky over downtown Ottawa last night. They were originally meant for Canada Day on Parliament Hill, but that event was cancelled due to a thunderstorm. So officials decided to launch the fireworks to kick off Blues Fest. The city says it didn't inform the public beforehand to avoid large crowds gathering outside the music festival. The Calgary Stampede draws in hundreds of thousands of visitors, including plenty of politicians doing their best to blend in. It's not their first rodeo, but as Heather Yerkes-West explains, committing a fashion faux pas can stir up trouble.
When you're the Premier of Alberta or Mayor of Calgary, Stampede is a busy 10 days. From hosting breakfast to making announcements, full Western attire is constantly on display. The Premier's office says Danielle Smith is self-styled, drawing from a collection amassed from a lifetime of rodeos.
For me, though, it's all about the shoes. So I think I'm the first mayor in 75 years who actually came from working on a ranch to the mayor's office. So I come by the cowboy boots, honestly.
But it's not just local politicians. Visiting dignitaries come to Stampede each year to campaign, fundraise, and schmooze. This year, Ontario's Premier brought his Ford Nation belt buckle, which he took off at a press conference Monday to give Smith as a gift. She gave him an Alberta buckle in return.
And I don't want his pants to fall down.
I think the look is so important, and I think you really want it to be not memorable, but classic, fitting in and like wearing the right things.
But get a look wrong and the internet could let you have it. It still hasn't forgotten the time in 2015 when then Premier Rachel Notley wore her hat backwards. And who could forget a certain Prime Minister's disastrous look from 2005. Stephen Harper's misshapen cowboy hat and ill-fitting leather vest is still talked about in Cowtown, but this year it seems Pierre Poilievre's Stampede style has been the most memed. Satire site The Beaverton posting his look under the headline, "Poilievre vows to fight woke culture following new galactic disco cowboy makeover."
Laugh it off, you know, and say, Yahoo, oops, and kind of come back from that. Stephen Harper should know better. He's a Calgarian.
When in doubt, a good cowboy hat, pair of boots, and some quality denim should do for anyone brave enough to saddle up on the 10-day political gauntlet that is the Calgary Stampede. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Calgary. Yahoo.
Yahoo! That is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Jeff Sumple. Tonight's Your Canada is a gaggle of geese enjoying this beachside view in Vancouver. We love seeing your Canada, so please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.